I'm here with my buddy Clementine. In this video, we're going to go over some tips that you can use if you have a dog that likes to pull on the leash. Now, Clementine essentially has two problems, and Clementine is a boy, by the way. So the first one is that he likes to pull on the leash. Second issue, he is reactive to dogs. He's had a couple of dogs go after him when he's been on the leash. And so as a result, he is a little bit trepidatious when he's out. Now, anytime your dog's reactive, the best thing to do is to increase the distance between you and your dog. Got to remember I have a mic and not talk so loud. And so basically, sometimes you might have to move around a car or around a shrubbery or something like that. But if your dog's reactive, they're not going to hear you. You can't give them any cues. They're hysterical. So don't worry about that. If you have to, you can pick them up. I prefer not to. Really, the better thing to do is be mindful and watch the area. And if you see someone coming around, then stop, turn around, and do a couple find its and walk away or cross the street and increase the distance. The more we do that, the less the dog has to do that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is the leash pressure game, which he did really good at, but he might not do well as this later, so I'm going to kind of describe it in detail. So dogs have an opposition reflex. If I pull, see how he pulled towards me. So most of us, we just pull our dog around, and that creates an unpleasant experience for the dog, and also activates their opposition reflex. So the leash pressure game is basically where I want to add just a little light pressure. Yeah, bien is his marker word. Is bien. So what I'm doing is just putting just a tiny bit bien. And you see, I really don't have to put any on it for him because he understands what it is. So you want to practice these things in the environment your dog can perform in. This is inside. This is much easier than if we go outside. If we go outside around a lot of other dogs, it's much more difficult. So we always want to rock it back to the previous level of success if the environment is too rich. Or if we try to go from inside to outside and it's too much, we might find a friend who has an apartment building where there's a corridor. So you're inside, but it's a corridor, but you're not outside in the frame. So we'll try to find a place that's a little bit easier. Now, I also like to give a dog a left or right side. He is on, we decided on the right, correct? All right, and we have another dog, LeBron, and he'll be walking on the left. Now to do this, what we're going to do now is we want to condition him to go towards that side. So I have my leash. If I want the dog on my right side, the leash is on my left arm. The treat is in my left hand. And I'm going to move this back. And when I'm moving, I want you to watch the fluidity of my movement and also the arm. My arm is going to go down as it goes backwards. I'm also going to move my arm and leg back simultaneously. Let's put this on the other side. So I lure him back. See how close to his nose I was? When the Guardians were practicing this, it's hard for me to capture all the little elements, but they're kind of going like this. See how he didn't give me the same thing that we were getting before? So when you do it, try to make sure you're underwater. And what I like to do is flip it back and forth. So I kind of go like this, turn him towards you, bien, then turn to face him right away, bien. And let's do that one more time. When we're doing this, let's show him from the side. When I deliver the treat, I want you to watch him be delivering the treat behind the seam of my pants. If you deliver the treat in front, you're going to condition your dog to move in front, and that's going to create problems. Okay, so when I do this, I usually like to turn the face of the dog, do one, bien, and then turn right away, bien, and do a bunch of those back and forth until it's very easy to lure the dog into the position. And then bien. For me, that's the formal finishing position, is you put him as sit. I wasn't having the dog sit right before because we want to actually incorporate movement. I'm going to have our cameraman move forward. I'm going to move back, and I'm going to show you kind of the next couple steps. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lure him in position, then take a step while I'm holding it here. Say bien and release it. I have another one in my hand. Bien. 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 And then we'll turn and go ahead and go on back. All right, so you see now where he's at. I can hold my hand here, bien. Give him the treat from the other hand, which is not a bad thing to do. Now, what we're going to do at first is we're just going to take one step at a time, and I'll show you here. One step, bien. So left, right, bien. Left, and then release the treat. Left, right, bien, release the treat. Eventually, what you want to do is start incorporating more steps until we're eventually going like this. Bien, and then release the treat. We're going to add these steps one at a time. So at first, you're left, right, treat. Left, right, treat. Then eventually left, right, left, treat. Left, right, treat. And so you're going to gradually build. It's important we go at the dog speed, not at our speed. If he gets distracted, then the environment's too distracting. Pause. Let the distraction go away. If we have a young child who's running around going crazy, Have them go downstairs or upstairs and wait for the dog to settle down and then come back and practice. It's hard enough to teach the dogs how to do this. We don't need added elements. Now, the last step for this is we want to actually start conditioning the dog to walk with us without having our hand here. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'1". So if I got to walk down the street like this is a little bit difficult. So what I'm going to do now, if you're going to watch my hand, I'm keeping it here behind my seam. Left, right, shoulder, bien, treat. Let's go ahead and show them that again. Now I'm going to do this twice. I'm going to deliver 2 treats. And what the Guardians were doing was stopping in between, which is everybody does when they first do it. But we're walking, we don't want to stop in between each one. So left, right, bien. Left, well, that wasn't the best form. Yeah, I know. I didn't do a great job there. Let's try that one more time. Come here, buddy. You didn't even realize I dropped him looking at me. That's awesome. All right. Let's see if we can have good mechanics here. 1, 2, 1. So eventually when you're walking, you're going to take one step with it up here. At first, when you first do it, it's boom, boom. Because if you hold it up here too long, they're going to wander off. So boom, boom, and eventually, when you're doing it, 1, 1, 2 steps. Then I give him the treat. Then 1, 2, 3 steps and give him the treat. And again, he's staying in this heel position next to me. This is not teaching him to heel, however. Look at how many steps I'm able to get now. Bien. So the idea is we need to go at the dog's pace, not at our pace. So if you want to go to 4 steps and he loses interest after 3, back up to 4 steps. Now, I also want to incorporate other things on the walk. A lot of times we are so boring on a walk, the dog gets in trouble because of how boring we are. So I'm going to do bien. Find it. Bien. Bien. So when you're out on a walk, maybe between every house or apartment building, stop it in the nice grass area, throw it. Don't throw it in, there's a lot of junk there. And don't do this in an area where there's a dog barking. Now, there is a German Shepherd, if I remember correctly, that lives nearby that he doesn't like.
There's an Italian Greyhound and a Golden Retriever.
And a Golden Retriever.
Also an Akita.
And Akita, okay. So what we want to do is, something else I'm going to go over is a little bonus. It's called the Engage, Disengage game. So I'm going to use the camera as the engagement. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of holding still. He's looking at me because I have the treats. Bien. So what I did, what you want to do is get close enough to the other dog or truck or person or whatever the stimulus is your dog doesn't like without your dog reacting. My 2 tests, can I get my dog to sit and will it take a treat? When I ask him for a sit, I ask to sit 1 time. If I say sit and the dog doesn't sit, that's the dog's way of saying, I'm too close to the boogeyman. I don't feel comfortable sitting. That puts me at a disadvantage. Don't force your dog to sit or ask multiple times. If I say sit and he won't sit, I take a couple steps further away and then ask for a sit. If a dog won't take treats that you know it likes, it's probably an indication it has cortisol, the stress hormone in their blood, and it affects their digestive tract. So that's another indicator for you. I have set my dog up in an environment that he does not feel comfortable and safe in. And if I keep on doing that, he's not going to trust me because I put him in these jackpot situations. So what I want to do is get as close to the other dog. We got a couple more treats. And this is separate for the loose leash walking. This is reactivity. I'm just coupling them together because I know this is a big issue for you guys. So what I do is I just come over and I just stop. And I'm just waiting for the dog to look at the camera. And again, he's looking at the treat, so I'm going to kind of watch him out of the corner of my eye so that I see him but without staring at him. And so he looks in the other direction. This is really operant conditioning. What we're saying is looking at the other dog will get you a treat. You don't have to play with it. You don't have to smell it. You don't have to be next to it. You do it whatever distance he feels comfortable with. And this is the part where you're supposed to look at the camera and make me look impressive. But if he doesn't, that's okay. What is he doing? He's practicing being around the other dog without reacting. That's one of the things we're looking for. Now, let's say it gets to the point where now he's looking pretty easily. You're going to look now. And if you notice, I got my treats behind my back. If you hold them up here, bien. Now, if he chortles, grumbles, or any of those things, that's okay, but that's an indication we're getting close to his breaking point. That may mean I might take another step back so we increase a little bit of that distance and wait for him to look again. So first, this is called the Engage, Disengage game. The first part is engaging. Bien. Is he hearing sounds of the dog? So there might be one of the dogs that he has a reactivity issue. That's why he's chortling. He hears that. So what I could do is find it. I'm giving a replacement behavior. Find it. And that's why I want you guys doing this on walks all the time, so that when you do it, it's just like, this is the game that we like to do. All right, so let's say that dog was there. Are we friends with, and you don't have to say too much, but are you friends with the people who own the dogs that he's had issues with? So what you would do is arrange to have them help you. Hey, can we go to a place where the street is not super busy, and they're maybe walking their dog back and forth across the street, and you wait for Clem, and as soon as Clem looks at him, you say, bien, give him a treat. And after we do this to the point where now he looks at the dog and then he looks away automatically, that's the disengage part of this exercise. So then what I would do, sit. Can you make a benign sound? Without the sounds, that's the motion that I'm looking for the dog. So what Clementine's going to do is look at the dog and then look away, because that's what he's done 50 times to get the treats. Now we're saying the marker word. At first we're saying the marker word when he looks at the dog. Now we're saying the marker word when he looks away from the dog. So we're saying looking at the dog and looking away, which is considered a cutoff signal, gets you a treat. Find it. And once I've gotten to the point where 5 times in a row he looks at the dog and looks away, now I'm ready for the next step, which is to come one step closer and repeat the whole process. Now I'm going to reward just for looking until he looks and then looks away. And gradually you get closer and closer. This will probably take multiple practice sessions before you can get there. Now, the other dog movement, if the dog is barking and going crazy, that's going to make him much more on edge. It depends on the other dog's behavior. So you might have to have one dog further away because it's more animated, and one dog closer because it's a little bit more relaxed and subdued. Pro tip is you can exercise your dog beforehand. Just make sure he has 10 minutes to recover. If the other dog is a basket case, ask them to do it, take their dog for a walk, and then come back and do it after the walk. We're not technically supposed to be pulling on the leash, buddy. Clem. But see how easy that was to do without even having any treats. Now, I also went over a hand targeting exercise. If you haven't taught your dog hand targeting, I would recommend that. That does dovetail into this. The last little thing about the other dogs. Most of the time, our dog has a negative experience with another dog. We separate them to keep them safe. Last thing I remember is we got in a fight with that other dog. I don't like that other dog. We need to build in positive associations. So what I would do is talk to your neighbors. I would do this engage-disengage game for a while until you get to the place where you're closer, and then go for what we call parallel walks. So we have a human, and maybe across the street, they're walking. We're walking all along the same side. We're on the same level, but we're walking together. And gradually we get a little closer and a little closer. Are you tangling yourself up? And then eventually we want to get to the point where we have human, human, dog, dog. So the dogs are walking near each other. They're distracted. We're letting them sniff the ground because that's a good way to burn energy. And what are they doing? They're practicing being together without being reactive towards each other. And I've done this with hundreds of dogs where in some cases we can just help them become comfortable around each other. They don't react anymore, but they're not buddies. In other cases we have situations where the dogs actually become buddies with the other dog. But you have to go at both dogs' pace. If the other dog is reactive or doesn't want to do it, see how his ears are up? If his ears flip back, he won't look at the other dog, or he's staring at the other dog, offering body language he's uncomfortable. We're probably moving too fast, and we all do it. We're all greedy. Just talking about Amazon. Amazon has next day delivery is not fast enough. We need a same day delivery. So for our dogs, we often have unrealistic expectations. I want to make sure that you guys are doing this shorter. So let's talk about practicing. So the leash pressure game, I would have your young one practice this, and you guys practice this as well. You might also practice in your little backyard or practice a little outside when there's nobody around. But he picked up on it really well. So all we want him to do is when he feels that pressure just to give in and come to us. And our job is to make sure that we are not doing this and that we're not pulling him around. And those are habits that I'm sure that you guys have developed that you're going to have to work on undoing. So you work on that pressure game. The next step is practice this one. And when you do it, when you lure him around, again, you could put him into a sit, but I want you to lure him around and then taking a step and treating, and luring him, and then taking 2 steps and then treating without stopping. Right now, when you guys are learning, you guys were stopping each time. You want to keep on movement. If you have a corridor or something upstairs in a hallway, those are great places to practice because there's not a lot of leeway for the dog to do, and we're, again, helping them practice and develop good behavior patterns. And so at first, we're just going to lure the dog back, and once we can lure the dog pretty easily, then we're going to take 1 step with our hand down and then say bien and release the treat. And we're going to keep on doing that until we get to about 5 steps. Once I can keep the dog here with 5 steps, then I'm going to take a step and then go boom, boom. And so we're going to do that at first, like I talked about earlier, right away. Then eventually we're going to have it 1 step up here, 2 steps up here, 3 steps. We want to work up to about 5 or 10 steps, or eventually we can walk all the way here to the door in the kitchen, turn around, come back to the door, and then begin giving the treat. So now we've accomplished this inside. When we go outside, a lot of times we just stop, and then next time we practice completely outside. I'd like to have you start inside, then open the door and practice immediately outside. So you're practicing as you go through the doorway. Now I do a little test. Sit. Do you have the verbal cue or just the gesture? Sit. Yes. I stop periodically and ask my dog to sit, or any cue that they know. If I say sit and the dog can't sit, or it takes a whole bunch of times to ask him, I'm probably in an environment that's too distracting. So make sure, again, you make sure that you're setting your dog up for success by having an environment that's not too busy. Now this is not a fluid thing, or I can't say exactly how many steps. You're going to have to go at your dog's pace, but I want you to just basically follow along. And remember, if your dog performs poorly, back to previous level of success, you have difficulty, anything gets hung up, just text me or call me. Shoot a little video sideways like this, a 30-second video, and send it to me. I can look at it and say, oh, you're keeping your hand too far up, it's too high, or whatever the case may be. Sit. Well, that's not very good camera presence. Come here. Target. Or did you say touch or target?
You said target.
Target. But you see my treat hand is here. Target.
I forgot that one. Can we get back on the list?
Sit. This is my man Clementine. And these are some tips if you have a dog that is likes to pull on the leash. And there's also little bonus tips about dogs that are reactive towards other dogs or people.